The story of Daji has a few different versions. In one version, Daji is simply a little girl that grew up to be a terrible sadist of a woman. She tortured and mutilated people just to amuse herself. She was a girl who, when becoming a woman, was forced into the concubine of a ruler. And although that ruler came to love her and gave her everything she wanted, she still resented the man and found other ways to escape the world she had been brought into. In another version of the story of Daji, the ruler was told by his advisors to worship Nuwa and it would bring prosperity to the lands of China. In doing so, the ruler also became disgustingly infatuated with Nuwa and ended up insulting and angering the goddess. In turn, Nuwa found the fox spirit and ordered it to possess a woman and to seduce the ruler in order to destroy his empire. This story has been told and retold many times, and one ancient Chinese novel by the name of Investiture of the Gods immortalized the tale. However, I'd like to take liberty in retelling the story one more time. I believe there's truth in both versions. I believe that Daji was taken by Zhao, and I also believe that Daji lived a normal human life until she was submitted into the concubine. However, I also believe that Zhao insulted the mighty goddess Nuwa, and I believe that Nuwa sent the fox spirit to possess his favorite and most beautiful woman he knew. My name is Equivalent Exchange, and this is episode 1 of Smite Myths, Daji. Daji was the beautiful daughter of a noble family named Su. The Su family ruled over a humble state called Su, and until the years of her young adulthood, Daji lived a very normal life. However, Zhao, the tyrant of Shang, conquered the state of Su. He threatened to completely destroy the state, but the head of family Su offered Daji, the youngest of his 3 daughters, to be a slave to him. Zhao found Daji to be incredibly beautiful and liked the idea of adding her to his concubine. He had no need or reason to destroy Su, so he took the offer. By this time, the king was in his 60s and had been in his throne for 40 years, and Daji was only just barely a woman. He had been known as strong, heroic, oratory, and well-versed in music. Under his reign, Shang had become a powerful and prosperous state, but in the eyes of Su and Daji, he was only a foul old tyrant who lusted after young women. After bringing Daji back to the Dijin Empire, Zhu would do everything possible to include himself in the things that Daji showed interest. She said she liked animals, so he built her a Xanadu with a large collection of rare birds and animals. Daji said she liked dancing and singing, so Zhao ordered artists to perform music and choreograph. However, these performances were lewd. The performers danced naked and the music was scratchy and untraditional. Because of his infatuation with Daji, state affairs soon began to decline. Crops were being neglected and people were becoming unhappy. Sickness was spreading and Zhu was completely unaware. Soon his advisors came to him, pleading with him about the state of his empire. Zhu was shocked and asked what he must do to repair his lands and his people. "Go and pray to our creator, Nuwa. You must show her respect and bring her offerings." So he did. Emperor Zhu began visiting the temple of Nuwa regularly, bringing offerings of incense and the finest crops. His time away from Daji made him weak, and his lust for women made him desperate. Zhu one day became so infatuated with Nuwa and the likeness in the temple that he defiled her very place of worship. He wrote lewd poems on the walls, much like the songs and dances he would force on his performers. Nuwa was enraged by this display, and she summoned forth the silver fox spirit. She commanded this spirit to find and possess a woman that Zhu lusts after and cares for deeply. She instructed that the spirit use this woman to seduce Zhu, distracting him enough to cause the empire to fall. Nuwa made sure that the woman would know of her plans, and promised to make the woman immortal once the deed is done. So, the fox spirit went back to Dijin ahead of the emperor, found Daji and possessed her. Upon returning, Zhu once again threw parties for Daji, acting as if the displays at the temple never happened. Something was different though. Daji was more happy to see Zhao than she had ever been before. And although she always succumbed to the emperor's wishes, she was eager this time. She encourages Zhao to drink. She begged him to lie with her. She demanded to see the lewd dancing. Emperor Zhu would allow the guests to play a cat and mouse game in the nude among the trees so that Daji could be amused. When a maid of honor could not bear the sight of such debauchery and protested, Emperor Zhao had her slain, her father grounded, and his flesh fed to the tyrant's vassals. Daji was amused by this, and started demanding to see more punishments as such. Eventually, Daji became a brute herself. It was said that her greatest joy was to hear people cry in physical suffering. Once, as she saw a farmer walking barefoot on the ice, she ordered his feet be cut off so that she could study them and figure out the cause of their resistance to cold temperature. In another occasion, she had a pregnant woman's belly cut open so that she could satisfy her curiosity of finding out what happened. On top of all those atrocities, Daji was best known for her invention of a device of torture called Pao Lao. It was a bronze cylinder heated like a furnace with charcoal until the sides were extremely hot. Then the victim would be bound on the cylinder and baked. Daji would take great delight in the painful cries of the condemned. While the tyrant Zhao was occupied with making himself and Daji happy, a Zhuul tribe began to grow increasingly strong. Its hatred towards the tyrant was deep-rooted. When Boyi Cao, leader of the Zhu tribe, visited, he had a love affair with Daji. In his wrath, the tyrant Zhao had Cao killed. Daji demanded that Zhao have the man's body ground up. As if it were not enough, Daji made Ji Cheng drink the soup of his son's flesh before Zhu threw him in prison. 12 years after the Zhuul leader's death, his youngest son, Ji Fa, launched an attack against Sheng to revenge his family. The anger and hatred created by the brutality of tyrant Zhu and Daji filled the uprising of the Zhuul tribe. In the face of the Zhu tribe's onslaught, the better armed and once invisible army of Shang suddenly gave in, and many soldiers even turned their weapons against their tyrannical ruler. Seeing his dynasty doomed, tyrant Zhu committed suicide by setting himself on fire, 28 years after Nuwa originally sent the fox spirit into Daji. However, after the fall of the Shang dynasty, Nuwa sentenced Daji to death instead of making her an immortal, as she had promised, because she found her overzealous in doing what she had been asked to do. Daji had made her people so mad that it left Nuwa no alternative. That's all for today's Smite Myth. Interesting the difference in tales, but you can see the inspiration that Hi-Rez had for Daji. Of course, in their version, Daji was made immortal and not executed. I really hope you enjoyed this tale, and I hope you all would like to hear more. I know I had a ton of fun researching the lore and putting together the myth, and if you do like it, leave a like and comment down below. And why don't you tell me which god or goddesses you'd like to hear about next? If you want to learn more about the different pantheons and the details on the mythos of each pantheon, check out SurefireDAMEON. He just recently started a series on the topic and has a video about the Norse pantheon. I'll make sure to leave a link to his channel in the description. Anyways, my name's Equivalent Exchange, and thanks for watching.